At the very core, humanity is good and kind and love wins.
So the work is actually a really profound meditation on the origins of human consciousness itself.
You feel the timelessness of human history, but put onto a contemporary Australian family.
It's a fracturing of a family, and it's full of tenderness, redemption, regret. It's probably one of the most remarkable sacred dramas I've ever had the privilege of working on. The work that we're staging in our winter season this year at Pinchgut is Alessandro Scarlatti's Cain, or The First Murder. It's about the story of Cain and Abel.
Well, I guess it's a sequel in some ways, actually. It's what happened to Adam and Eve after they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and what happens to their sons. The actual approach, though, we've taken to telling the story is to set it on an Australian beach camping holiday. So we've given it the frame of mum and dad have, you know, undergone some trauma, they've come here to kind of heal, the boys are here. And the reason we've put it in this setting is because I want the audience to relate to this myth as a universal human story. And of course, we see things when they look like us. And I think that really gives you a way to go into the story, which is still being heightened by this incredible music, but you can sort of link your own life into what you're seeing on stage. And that does sort of beg the question of how we work God and Lucifer, who are important to this particular score, into that story. So what we've kind of got them coming in as is kind of the elemental presence, you know, the Australian landscape. You're so aware of, you know, fire, water, air. And so we've got God sort of aligning with air and water, and of course, you know, Lucifer aligning with fire. And in a really interesting way, we've got them appearing on stage, being filmed, and then we have these screens that sort of mix them with elements of fire and water and give the kind of huge epic scope that those figures have in our mythological consciousness.
The design team have just done an incredible job, and I think it's going to be a beautiful production, visually spectacular, but also the music of Scarlatti is just so sublime.
The First Murder is full of searing arias of psychological depth, but also laments of great tenderness and beauty.
I think what might surprise people is the really clever way that Dean is using two people per character with Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel are embodied by young men, and they are sung by women. So we sort of have this connection. We have two Cains and two Abels, one singing essentially the soul of the characters, while the boys give that kind of sheer physicality that teenage boys have. And it's sort of, I think it's always interesting when you use doubling on stage. For some reason, it makes audiences connect to it in a really different way. They're watching, the characters watch each other, and that, you know, allows us to see into it a little more.
These young boys, for me, are very similar age to my son, and it feels incredibly relatable.
One of the many examples that really makes Alessandro Scarlatti stand out as a great composer of dramatic music comes at the end of part one, before interval, and the two brothers are singing to each other. Cain has already decided that he wants to kill Abel, but Abel doesn't know that. So they both sing to each other about how wonderful fraternal love is. And it's in a da capo aria, which many of our audience know is a staple of Baroque opera. And it has three parts. It's got the A section, and then a B section, and the A section returns. In the A section, the brothers are singing to each other of their brotherly love. But in the B section, Cain talks about how he's going to take his revenge on Abel. And then the A section comes back. And this is a remarkable moment in music history, because I don't know of an earlier example of an aria like this in which, after we hear Cain speak of his vengeance, the words that are repeated take on an entirely different meaning.